All right, I think we're going to get started. Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Brandy McGrath-Conk, Director of Member Services here with Sertoma, and I'm excited today to be joined by our presenters, Carrie Kerr and Dan Gassel of Helms Briscoe. The two of them have 40 plus years of combined planning experience, including 12 years working together in their current roles. Their company, Helms Briscoe, specializes in finding hotels and other venues for clients and negotiating the best rates and contract terms for them. The great thing is with Helms Briscoe, there's no charge for their service, as they're compensated by the hotels and other venues who win your business. Carrie has worked with Sertoma since Aaron came on as Executive Director in spring 2019. She previously worked with both Aaron and me while we were at the National Auctioneers Association, helping to secure hotel and meeting rooms for many events of varying sizes. As you know, they had us ask a few questions when you registered for today's session, which they have used to customize the presentation, especially for our members. Before we get started, please note that you can submit questions at any time using the Q&A option below. Carrie and Dan will do their best to answer as many questions as they can at the end of their presentation. With that, Carrie and Dan, we turn things over to you.
Thank you, Brandy. Hello, everyone. I'm Carrie Kerr, and Dan, how about an intro from you?
Brandy, thank you very much for that nice introduction. And Carrie and I are very happy and very privileged to be invited to do this. And we are very mindful that we have 40 to 45 minutes to relay some nice tips and some tricks that you might want to know the next time that your club gets together and wants to have a meeting of any size. Carrie and I have probably seen that meeting of any size, from a board meeting of 10 people up to a large trade convention of up to 5,000. So we've learned a few things over the 20 plus years that we've each done this, and we're happy to meet you and give you a few tips for takeaway after today.
Thank you, Dan. So I'd like to go through the survey results rather quickly, since we want to have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. 19 clubs responded to the survey that you answered when you registered. The types of events that you all hold vary very widely. Anything from regional conventions to all types of fundraising events and chapter awards events, board installations, that type of thing. Attendees also range from anywhere from 40 to 300 plus. It seemed like most of your club events take place in the spring and fall, which makes sense because you probably avoid holidays and summer vacations. And whether the location changed for your events was primarily yes, some no. Next, do you use hotels? About a half and half. And then, have you had to cancel an event? I'm guessing that most of you rarely had that issue until this year, excuse me, with COVID. And it looks like 8 of you had to cancel because of the pandemic, and 1 for an unknown reason. And I wanted to just spend a moment on COVID and how that has impacted the hospitality industry. I'm sure you're all aware, many hotels are still closed down. If they are open, they have a skeleton crew on site. And for us personally, we work with hotels every day, all through the day. And there's usually only 1 person in the sales department right now that's answering all inquiries. So they're extremely busy, stressed, and overworked. And there is a huge glut of unemployed hotel and convention and visitors bureau representatives out in the job market right now. So it's a very hard time for our industry. And we are hopeful that things will start to improve, but it looks like it'll be 2021 before we see any sign of real improvement. So if anyone has an event for 2020, talk to me and Dan, because
yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, Carrie, let me piggyback on that real quick. Surprisingly enough, and think about this. Yeah, Carrie and I are seeing, for the most part, whether it's a corporate or an association, doesn't matter, or clubs. They're really picking up their business right now in 2020 and moving into 2021. What's interesting is, to be honest, there's a big traffic jam in 2021. So surprisingly, it's actually kind of hard for us to find space right now in 2021 for your larger programs, right? That being said, if you want to be thinking about moving your 2020 program, if you have one, to 21, let someone like us know sooner than later because it's busy out there. And one other thing with Carrie mentioned, which is so true, I've actually been in and out and dealing with a lot of limited service hotels. In case you've ever been in a hotel that makes sense for you, like a Hilton Garden Inn or Fairfield Inn, things like that. Now what you've got is literally, Carrie, one person that's working the front desk and they're answering the phone and they're probably trying to run down the hall to do laundry and answer an RFP. So it's really, really stressed this out. But let's look to the other side. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. 21 is going to come back. 22 is going to be a bear of a year. It'll be a bear. And here's why. At the end of the day, we all need to connect. We all need to connect. You know, we're beyond grateful that Brandy and Janice have made this a possibility this morning for us to talk for 40 minutes. But come through all of these clouds, we have a need to look at each other and connect. We need to connect with each other. We need to connect with our club members. And it's going to win. And we'll be back and you'll be back and we'll be ready to work when you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Dan. Financial impact on your clubs from the cancellations. Looks like a couple of you may have had to pay some fees as a result of canceling, and that's been the real balancing act that we've experienced this year because of COVID. Sometimes clients will reach out directly to the hotel and say, oh my gosh, we can't have our meeting, we need to cancel. And if you say that to your hotel, they will take that as a cancellation notice, which is in your contract, and they will sometimes attempt to charge you a cancellation fee. And what we've been doing for our clients is very carefully avoiding that and making sure that you could walk away due to force majeure. And force majeure or impossibility is in every hotel contract, and it covers things like this pandemic, acts of God, curtailment of transportation, anything that would cause you to not be able to hold your event at the hotel. And it allows you to walk away without penalty. What we have been trying to encourage our clients to do is please rebook versus canceling outright. This helps everyone. Our hotel partners then have business on the books so that they can continue to stay open or can reopen with some business on the books. And as you can imagine, it's just very difficult to staff a hotel when you have no events booked. So it's super important to rebook if you can. Sometimes you're not ready to, you don't have dates, or there's other considerations. And of course, that's understandable, but we're really trying. And I would say with my clients, 90% have been able to rebook versus outright cancel. Dan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, that's it's key. Don't forget, Carrie and I are in a very unique position in that we're here to represent our clients, like your clubs, but we're here to represent the hotel community as well. So we look at both sides, and we want to come up with a solution that is a good fit for both. And I just want to piggyback on what you said, Carrie, and it's been one of the most vogue phrases I've heard in the past 2 months. And I'm sure all of you ladies and gentlemen are dealing with this in your clubs as well. And that's the importance of the word pivot. And in our world, the big vogue phrase right now is called lift and shift. So rather than, we decide, gosh, I just can't have this meeting, my club cannot get together to look at each other face to face, we would sit in the middle and say, can we at least talk about lifting your program and shifting it to another set of dates? Ones that make sense for you, one that makes sense for the hotel, and then you both get to march forward and still have your meeting just on a different set of dates.
Good. Okay, moving through the rest of the survey results. The last question was, what are your biggest challenges in putting together your events? And as you can see, there's a lot of different challenges. I think one of the things that we bring to the table to Sertoma and other clients is, because we are only focused on finding you a venue, getting a good deal, getting the best concessions and contract terms to protect your group, and making sure that everything's going well with your meeting, it frees you up to work on all of these other challenges. Ideas for events, getting people to sign up, finding speakers, finding transportation if you need it, ordering food, all of those millions of hats that you have to wear when you're producing an event. So that is, I think, why our company has had the success that it has had, and why it has worked so well for clients like yourselves to have basically another team member. That is the ideal, is when we are just part of your team, and we can help advise you. You still run the show. We're not telling you what to do, but we can certainly be a consultant, an advisor to your club, and help you get the best deal. So moving on from survey results. Dan, are there any questions on the survey that have come through?
No, there is. There's a great one, actually, and it's actually right on time. And it's a number of audience members saying, well, given what we're talking about right now, maybe it's time that we just sit down and not screw around, and let's pick a location and a date for 2022 for our regionals and just go with it. Great advice. And yes, Carrie and I would agree. And I'm going to guess that Carrie's agreeing because I see her head nodding. And here's, yes, the answer is yes. We would say sit down and pick a location and a set of dates that make sense for you in 22. You're going to increase your leverage a ton if you can come to Carrie and me with a set of dates versus just one. Now look, if it happens to be just one date that's going to work for you, that's fine. That's fine. We can work around that. That's fine. But if you have flexibility, you're going to increase your leverage, where they'll say, okay, if you can come on this pattern within this month, we can lower your rate by $20 or $30 a night. You know, for example, if you can come on a Sunday night, typically a hotel loves you. You know, hotels like booking at a nice restaurant, right? They like to fill that hotel 3 times during the week. A nice Sunday through Tuesday pattern, a nice Tuesday through Thursday pattern, and then a really nice Thursday through Saturday pattern. And voila, they go to Sunday again. So it's like having a table at a really nice restaurant and you have 3 patrons sit at it versus just 1. So if you've got that flexibility, fantastic. You could really increase your leverage. But 22, yes, pick a location, pick a set of dates that work, and please let someone like Carrie and me at least look over your shoulder to make sure that we get you the best deal, but also that contract still has some of these clauses that Carrie and I did not have these clauses a year ago, right? You know, we say we carry around a toolkit of clauses that make sense for our clients to, you know, mitigate your exposure and lessen your risk, right? And we've been doing that. We've had fantastic clauses. And if Carrie and I don't know, we've got 900 people that do this for Helms Briscoe just in the United States. But we certainly have beefed up our force majeure and our impossibility clauses in the past year. So we're happy to share those with you. And again, as she mentioned, all at no cost. So 2022, yes, talk about locations that make sense, talk about dates, let us know.
Definitely. In fact, it's a great time to book 2022 and beyond, because the hotels are really hungry for business, and we can probably negotiate a pretty great deal for you. Okay, so next up is booking your event tips and tricks. Step 1, and I'm speaking from the perspective of how Helms Briscoe, tackles your event, but obviously you would do some form of this on your own in your club. So in the industry, it's known as an RFP. You've probably heard that acronym, Request for Proposals. And we build an electronic RFP describing your event, and we send that out via a system called Cvent. And you may be familiar with it if you book any number of events, but it's an electronic RFP system. And just about every hotel or special event venue in the world is listed there if they want to get business this way. And it's important to know this is the way group business is being booked these days. It's no longer an printed out RFP sent via email to 3 or 4 hotels. This platform is so incredibly powerful. We can literally drill down to, okay, we need, our largest meeting room needs to be at least 5,000 square feet. And we need at least 6 breakouts. And we also need 200 sleeping rooms, and 50 of them need to be doubles. I mean, we can drill down on the hotel information and only send to hotels that fit your needs. So it's a huge time saver, and the hotels really appreciate it as well. So step one, you would come up with your proposed dates, which Dan already touched on that. So as many possible dates ranges that you can have is great, but we understand sometimes you're not able to change your date. Anything about your attendees. The hotels really appreciate when you include some details. Is this club primarily older people, or are they super active? What are your goals for this meeting? Why are they there? Are they bringing their families with them so that you need different types of sleeping rooms? That sort of information. I like to add that, you know, a lot of times our clients have free time during the meeting and that they will spend generously at the hotel's outlets. Hotels love knowing that you're going to do some ancillary spending, as they call it. That's all factored in when they book groups, is that you're going to be eating at their restaurants, buying stuff at their gift shop, whatever their amenities might be, that you'll be using those. The other big thing is obviously location. And again, sometimes you need to be in a very specific location, and sometimes you're much more flexible. You would take anywhere in the city, and that helps. Obviously, it's cheaper to book an airport hotel than it is to book downtown in general.
Hey, Carrie, let me tack on that real quick. I think it's important for you all to know that when Carrie and I present our findings to our clients, so many times one of the main factors that helps them make a good, informed decision is, well, yes, rate is important, of course it is, but where's the hotel? That's not unimportant, right? So we routinely also do a mapping function when we send our grids of findings to our clients. And I love this function because you get to see, we put push pins on a map, and you can zoom in, you zoom out, and you get to see where my hotels are, and then let us know. For example, I've had clients that wanted to, it was imperative that they need to be near a cathedral. They wanted to be in a city environment, and they wanted to go and say mass. So it was a group of Catholic priests, and they wanted to be able to say mass at a cathedral. So I put a green push pin on in the middle of the cathedral in 5 different cities, and then the orange push pins all around it were the hotels. And it was great because the decision maker only had about 10 minutes to make a decision after all this work we had done, but he ultimately made his decision based on location. You know, he trusted that we had vetted the properties up front. There was no clunkers in there. The rates all met the parameters, and then he wanted to look at location, and you could zoom in and zoom out and say, oh, well, look, we're really close to, for example, Restaurant Row, and it's important for my attendees to network with each other after hours. I don't want to have the cost of buses. I don't want to have to worry about shuttles. I want them to be safe. So Dan, Carrie, make sure you pick me a home that's got good access to, watering holes at night. That's what we need to hear up front. And when we present our findings, you not only see a one-page grid where all of our answers are stacked up next to each other, but you'd see a map as well. So
yeah,
stuff.
Love the map too. It's fun. And then the last piece is your room rate. And obviously that's usually the biggest decision factor for groups because rates can be so all over the map. One of the features we have in our system is we can actually look at the history of a specific hotel. We send so many RFPs out, being such a large company, that we have the history of the rate this hotel quoted another group. So that can be really handy when you're negotiating. Obviously, rate is impacted by a lot of variables. Time of year, days of the week, how large your group is versus how much meeting space you're asking. There's something that's called in the industry a space hog. And a lot of events are space hogs, at least for my clients, where they only need 50 sleeping rooms, but they need 50,000 square feet of space. And hotels don't necessarily like those. They like to see more of a balance, and they will sometimes turn down your RFP because you are too out of whack on meeting space needs versus sleeping room nights. And I could see that that might be a challenge for some of your events. So I wanted to just spend a couple minutes on that. There are ways around it. Sometimes you can work with the hotel on your food and beverage minimum. And if you feel that you'll spend a certain level on food and beverage, they will waive meeting room rentals. And sometimes it's a better deal to pay a small room rental for your group and not be tied into spending as much on food and beverage. But rates, again, are very flexible and very negotiable. So don't always take the first rate you get out the gate, because sometimes there's things you can do to change that to the better. Dan, anything else on rate? Okay, plugging away here. The last section was what types of sleeping rooms you need. So most hotels have single king rooms and double rooms. And anymore, most of the hotels are renovating and creating their doubles to be double queens versus full beds. So that can be an important thing to be watching out for, and making sure you have the right sleeping room types for your needs. Billing information, usually your group guarantees the meeting space charges and the food and beverage, but usually your attendees book their own sleeping rooms and pay for them with their credit cards. It's just important to let the hotel know. Hotels actually love it when you have everything on a master account, but I'm guessing most of your events would be set up the other way, where individuals pay on their own. It's called IPO in the industry, individual pay on own. And then meeting room needs and setups. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because that's rather detailed, but we are able to detail that all out in your RFP, that you need a ballroom that fits 1,000 people set up in rounds, and you could have your meals in that room as well. That sort of thing. We would put all of that in the RFP based on your input.
And this may surprise you, to our audience. Look, guys, this hotel community is serious about reopening their doors, right? Carrie and I are now privy to having meeting room needs and setups where the hotels have said, we've redone our diagram for a COVID-friendly room setup.
Right.
That's how serious they are about opening their doors, and say, look, we still want to host your meeting, and we may have a 10,000 square foot room that used to seat, 200 people in rounds. Well, not only seats 125, because we want to be safe for our guests, and we still want to open our doors and be a business. So it's out there.
Good. And the last piece that is important to include in your RFP is, what are the perks that would benefit your club or your attendees the most? And these are just a few suggestions of things we can ask for. One of the more standard concessions, as we call them, with group business is a 1 per 40 comp room. So for every 40 room nights that you book, and nights is different than, like you may have 20 rooms on one night and 50 rooms on another night. So your total room block is 70 room nights, and they would give you 1 comp room for that piece of business. If you could bump it up to 80 room nights, you would get 2 comp rooms. Attrition is another, we could do a whole webinar just on that topic alone, but in essence, attrition is where the hotels require you, and I know somebody mentioned hotel guarantees in their challenges section. They require you to pick up usually at least 80% of the block you've contracted. Now, sometimes you have a small enough meeting that you don't need to pay attrition. They will do what we call a courtesy block, where they will waive attrition, but that's definitely something that has to be negotiated up front. And if you need more than 20 hotel rooms, it's going to be tough to get. So in general, most meetings, they do hang you for attrition. Some hotels are trying to be real sneaky with it these days to increase their profitability. So again, we watch out for those. We make sure the clauses are favorable to you, the client, and just beware of that clause in any hotel contract. Dan, did you want to say anything else about attrition? It can really kill your budget.
Yeah. Just real quick, as you always know, let's make it sure it's cumulative versus night by night.
Yes.
That could sneak up and bite you.
And be conservative in how many rooms you ask for.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people book around the block, as they say, where they don't book under your block name. They use points. Maybe they have rewards points and they book using that, or they decide to get a VRBO because they're bringing their family. Things can go haywire on your room block, and suddenly you're in attrition 2 weeks out from your meeting, and what do you do? So we really try to watch out for those things as we build your RFP and work with you on the contracts.
Yeah, you know, and we call it in the business too, like stay to play, right? In a weird way. If you want people to attend this meeting, we come up with language and work with you to say, look, if you're going to come, stay at our host hotel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're always going to have those few that book around the block, and you know, your meeting's at a Hilton, and they're just a lifelong fan of Marriott's, and they use points, and they stay for free down the street. Okay, you're going to have that as one-offs here and there, but you know, we want to work with you and partner with you to say, you know what, you're putting a lot of work into this. You're throwing a big old wing ding of a party. You want people to show up and stay at your host hotel, and we can help you with language to reach out to your club members and say, you know, to be candidly with this audience that's here this morning. Hey guys, if you don't show up at the hotel and you book around the block, well, our club's going to get hit with attrition costs, and we're going to have to pay those. And guess who's going to have to pay for those eventually? You, because we're going to have to raise your dues. So I'm just being candid to the 21 people here, but you see where this is going. You know, they can help you be good stewards of your resources by just staying at your hotel. You picked a great hotel. You made sure it was the right rate. It's got all these concessions they're going to get. Stay at your host hotel. We can help you with that language, so you're not, you know, you don't come across as an ogre, but you still want people to stay at your host hotel for those reasons.
And then just a couple other ideas. Rebates, this is something you may not be familiar with. If you have a large enough piece of business, this isn't going to really work so well for a small, like, you know, 10 or 20 room night event. The hotels will often agree to paying a rebate back to the master, and that it will save you on your master account bill. And so that's something we can negotiate if it's appealing. And this is helpful sometimes to cover your audio-visual costs. Those can really be another webinar right there, just how to control audio-visual costs, you know, any other of the expenses for your meeting. And also there's reward points if you're staying at a flag, like a Hilton or a Marriott or Hyatt Intercontinental Hotel Group. There are multiple brands out there. There are still a handful of independent hotels in the US, but anymore they are almost all affiliated with a brand of some type. Even Marriott now has this Autograph brand. So the hotel will still appear to be an independent, but it will say it's an Autograph hotel somewhere in its name. And what's nice about that for you is you can get Marriott points now at that independent hotel. And they've agreed to obviously uphold certain standards of the brand, which is reassuring for most people. And then lastly, upgrades. It's real easy for us. One of the things I've found real successful for my clients is when they're holding an event like, you know, say a regional conference or a big, you know, annual meeting, they like to have a hospitality suite that they can keep their speakers in, or that they can meet in after hours, or use it for quick pop-up meetings. And you're not required to order food and beverage through the hotel if you have a hospitality suite. You could actually bring in your own stuff quietly. But that would save you a lot of money versus booking a meeting room and having to order off the catering menus. So I often ask of a hospitality suite, which is usually just a large, you know, bedroom suite with like a table and chairs and a nice couch area. And again, you know, it needs to be a big enough piece of business, but they will often give you that upgraded room type at your negotiated group rate. So instead of paying the rack rate of $500, $1,000 a night for this really nice suite, you're only paying $199 or whatever we negotiated.
Hey, Carrie, I'm watching all these questions come in. There's a gentleman named Tim Romero. I'm not sure where Tim is in the United States, but I'm going to guess that he is nodding his head right now, listening to what you're talking about, because he had mentioned a little bit earlier to all of us, for our regional convention, one of the most important items is a good hospitality room. We get it. We get it. You know, yes, you want to have a meeting that appeals to your whatever, say 200 people during the day, but you also need to just be with each other and just connect with each other. And let us know, please. And I wrote this and actually this answer in line with Tim's note that he just mentioned. Let us know that stuff way up front as much as you can. You know, if you anticipate that a hospitality room is really, really important, let us know that up front. Maybe you need 3 of them. Maybe the hotel can be really flexible and open up a small, handsome looking breakout room that they never use. And you trick that out to be, you know, your club, at night.
Yeah.
And that's where you, and you know, you set it up with couches and you make it very, very comfy, and that's where your real networking takes place, right? Is in that hospitality suite, often after hours, right? Keep it open until midnight, keep it open until 1 a.m. And that's where your real networking and connections take place with each other. So and one thing on top of Tim's comment too, Carrie, another Tim writes in as well, and I'll paraphrase, but Tim's has a concern that none of these decision makers are going to have the ability to look into a crystal ball, right? And this is not new, Tim, at all. There's a concern always about, well, how many people are going to come, right? Should I cut myself to the bone and only book 50 rooms when I probably need 100? We'll talk about that. You know, you don't want to book yourself so low, Tim, that suddenly you cut yourself to the bone, and now you've got your late bookers and all these people in the world that are procrastinators now having to stay scattered, right, in other nearby hotels. So we don't talk about your history in the past, what have you done in the past, and we'll have a frank discussion to say what's fair. Carrie and I can also help you through things with, like, if we get your announcements out early enough, you have different review dates with these hotels, and you can drop a whole lot of rooms if you want 6 months out, because no one's knocking on your door to come. And that gives a hotel more time to recover and find groups to fill in that space. But that's a topic for another day. But Tim, that's a great point you bring up.
And I was going to mention, Dan and everyone, hotels also have, at least your meetings hotels, and I didn't really define that very well at the beginning of our presentation, but we have hotels that we call big boxes in the industry, and they're the big anchor hotels downtown usually, or near an airport, near some sort of big attraction. And they have lots of meeting space, right? And lots of sleeping rooms. And a lot of the big box hotels especially have started closing down their restaurants. They'll only have maybe 1 or 2 restaurants instead of 4. And they might have a really cool empty restaurant space that you could use for a lounge as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Next up, okay, let's go away. Next up is, yes, Q&A. Are there any questions so far on what I just presented? Because I wanted to be sure we had lots of time for Q&A. And I don't know, I guess if everyone wants to submit their questions and Dan can moderate.
Yeah, I've been addressing most of them, Carrie. There's another one I didn't have a chance to get to. And I mentioned this to the whole audience, but especially to Tim, who brought this up. To the best of your ability, try to come up with all the nuances that you're going to need on this program way up front. And we get it. That's hard. We get it. It's sometimes hard to get people to sit still, 2 years out, right? And envision, what's my meeting going to look like in 2 years? Well, I'm going to need this many hospitality rooms and this many speaker rooms. We get it. It's hard. But just to the best of your ability, please do so. Here's what would not work, right? Is that you say, well, I need, 200 sleeping rooms that are all double occupancy and, and 1 suite for my speaker. Okay, great. And suddenly you get it whittled down to 2 or 3 hotels and you love them and you're trying to figure out what's going to be the tiebreaker between those 3 hotels. And all of a sudden you come up with like this really like crazy far out request of like, you know what, I just think about this. I'm going to need 40 executive suites with this and like this tricked out disco ball kind of lounge at night. And it's got to be huge. Suddenly those 3 hotels may not make sense anymore because they have only 3 suites in the entire hotel. So as much as you can, try to know the nuances of your program. And we give this kind of advice, make a list. What do we have to have versus what would be nice to have, right? So if you identify that networking is the number 1 thing that is important to your club's meeting, let us know that. And let's dump our brains together. Well, what does it mean for you to have a networking event? Well, it means late nights for my people, or it means, everybody goes to bed at 11 o'clock. Let us know. And we can help tailor the RFP to the hotel community to say, look, this is Club XYZ and their unique nuances are, because here's the number 1 question that Carrie and I want to hear from a hotel, when they know that Hilton is being pitted against a Marriott, a good Hilton rep will look right in Carrie's eyes and say, Carrie, what is it going to take to win this client's piece of business? And if Carrie has already talked with you and knows that what's really important to you is 7 executive suites to take care of 7 rock star speakers that you've lined up, and by the way, hotel, if you really want to win, you'll put an amenity in each of their rooms, you'll give us these really nice suites at the group rate or even better, and you'll count them towards their performance against attrition, and Carrie will just go boom, 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 and just keep asking till finally the Hilton says, I'll give you all those things. If I give those things, will I win? So let us help advocate for you by telling us good information up front about what's unique to your club's meeting.
Another good point, Dan, that you brought up made me think of this. Hotels are really hungry, obviously, right now for any business, but in a typical year, they're also really hungry at the end of each quarter and at year end. So like many for-profit companies, your quarterly earnings reports and all of that are super important. And the salespeople at both the hotels and in destinations, and we haven't really touched on destinations, Dan, so maybe we could spend 1 minute on that, will have incentives that they will roll out if you will sign a contract by a certain date. And so for sure, year end is a very busy time for us, but also at the end of each quarter, you know, at the end of April, September, what do we got? We got April, July, right? September. There's, anyway, the 4 quarters of the year, and then December are huge months for us.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just talk about destinations for a moment. Every city has a Convention and Visitors Bureau. You probably have one in your city. You may have multiple if you're a large city. And their job is to bring your business to their hotels and venues. And I should point out too that we don't just book hotels, we also do book event venues for our clients. And so any venue that you need should be in Cvent, or we can find it and get it added in. And we can send them the RFPs as well. We always copy in the Convention and Visitor Bureaus on our RFPs because sometimes they can offer some really great additional perks for your meeting. Depending on the time of year, if it's during a need period for them, like summer in Phoenix, you can not only get fantastic hotel rates, but possibly a financial rebate from the destination for bringing it to them. It helps the destinations to know they're competing against another city. So that won't necessarily work when you are always in your hometown year after year. But there are other things that they can bring to the table as well, like, you know, marketing materials, sometimes discount cards, show your badge and get a discount at, you know, downtown restaurants, that sort of thing.
You know, and actually I've seen this too, a lot work for clubs like this too, Carrie, is, you know, a convention center, you know, they're in business to make you say, gosh, I never want to go anywhere except Omaha for my next meeting, right? That's what good CVB does. And they'll also offer you, often free of charge, if you don't know this, they'll man your registration desk. They'll help man your hospitality desk. Now, you'd still want to have someone there, obviously, but, you know, if you need an extra body to help hand out name badges, oftentimes they'll print name badges for free. Mm-hmm. These are the things that they've done to be a good ambassador for their city, right, and to be welcoming. Carrie, there is a couple questions that came in that are actually very timely for all of this. Tim, if we had an award to hand out, Tim, for most questions asked, you'd be the guy. And your questions, and your questions are spot on. They're spot on. Tim has a 2-parter here at the buzzer. He says, number 1, do you have anything that we could produce, Carrie, which we can, the advantages of staying at a hotel with a slightly higher room rate versus staying at a hotel with, you know, a cut rate? Awesome question, you know, because you're probably going to have some, I'm trying to get into Tim's mind here, but, you know, you may have club members that say, you know what, Tim, I see the value in taking time away from my job to travel all the way to, name of the city, to go to this meeting. I see the value in it. But for this conversation, why are we staying at a Ritz-Carlton when we could have just as great of a meeting in a Hilton Garden Inn? Okay, and it sounds like Tim wants to be armed, Carrie, with knowledge of hey, this is why we chose this full service hotel. That doesn't have to be Ritz-Carlton, but why did we choose this full service hotel versus staying at the Hilton Garden Inn down the street? And we can help you with bullet points of that. But at the end of the day, you, Tim, you're trying to think as a collective whole of your entire club, obviously, and say, look, we ended up choosing this full service hotel because it has the amenities that we need. We have the ability to network with each other and to connect with each other. And it has, we vetted different properties around this city to make sure we got the very best available rate. And we're confident that we're providing a good home for our meeting. That's a good value. So, and he also wrote a really nice note that just said, this is valuable information and a blessing for those of us who've had to do this all on their own. Tim, thank you for that, because in 20 years, I've just, it's maybe puts the most gas in my tank is when I have a client that I worked with for the first time sit back after we've gone through this whole process, and they look at me and they're like, well, where have you been for the past 15 years of me doing this meeting? We get it. Club people in charge of clubs, you have so many things to worry about. As I said, the devil's in the details, right? So many things to worry about. We can help take this off your plate, that when you finally have your head hit your pillow, you can rest assured that we've done the vetting. We've gotten you the very, very, very best rate within that market at that time of year for your meeting. And you can put your head on your pillow and go to sleep, because you've got a hotel that makes sense for your budget and it makes sense for your attendees too.
Very good. Any other questions, Dan, before we switch over to prize drawing?
Let me cruise up real quick. I'm looking for a question from someone not named Tim Romero.
Hey, Dan, this is Brandy popping in. If you check over on the Q&A panel, it looks like we have some questions from Daryl, from David, and from Edwin.
Okay, I was just looking on the chat screen. I'm very sorry. Thank you, Janice.
That was actually Brandy, Dan.
Oh, sorry. Sounds like. Okay. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. Sorry, I was stuck on the chat screen and there's some Q&A. I'm very sorry. Let's see. Daryl writes in on the rates, Carrie. Often rates are quoted, but there are additional taxes and fees. Can you give an idea during the quote process of the added cost so people have an idea of the final very real cost? Carrie, you want to talk to that, and I'll look at the rest of the questions?
Yes, in our proposals, that's included. It's broken down. And some hotels, depending on, there are resort fees on top of tax fees. So that may be what you're referencing, Daryl. Sometimes we're able to negotiate those resort fees to even go away entirely. Again, there's many variables that impact the hotel's willingness to negotiate on those fees. We can't obviously do anything about the taxes, but we do detail that out in your report, so you see the final cost versus the 129 plus that you're going to be paying.
Okay, Carrie, I've got 4 of the really good ones, so we'll go turbos to speed, and I might let you answer all of these, all right? David writes in, this is all great. How is Humms Briscoe compensated? Carrie?
Okay, we are compensated by the venue, hotel or otherwise, that wins your business. So our founder, Roger Helms, about 28 years ago, had a great idea on the day his son was born. He worked for a hotel as a director of sales and marketing. And he thought, wow, what if we could take all of these small meetings that come across my desk every day from, you might have 1 meeting a year at a hotel or a venue, or maybe you have 3 or 4 if you're an extremely busy club. But if we could bundle those all under one umbrella and take this business out to the hotels and say, hey, our clients would like to book with you, because we're letting you have the opportunity to bid on all this business, you will give Humms Briscoe a placement fee for that. And we, in essence, invented, if you will, the third-party meeting planning business. And now there are many, many imitators. We definitely aren't the only ones. But the basic model is that the hotels pay a standard commission or placement fee to us on the sleeping room block only. And we have agreements in place with all of the major brands, for the most part, stating they will not increase the rates due to our commission. So you're protected on many levels. And we can compare it again to our rate history. Always check their website, because you just never know these days. Their information is everywhere. to make sure that you really are getting the very best group rate. And that's an important distinction, is that it's a group rate, not an individual traveler rate. Hotels will sometimes sell a single room for $79, but they're not going to sell 50 rooms for that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Super, super, super. I'm glad you brought that up, Carrie, because you may hear your club members say, well, hey, Daryl, you know, you say you got this great rate. Well, I went online to Expedia and I found one for 89, and, you know, we're out there doing this for 109. What am I getting for that? Well, if you really, really dug into that and looked at it, okay, they had one room to sell at $79 and they put it out on Expedia. It's bait, right? And oh, by the way, there's a whole lot of fees, and if you book it, you can never cancel it. You know, if you cancel it 2 minutes later, you're charged. We'll cut away all that bait. All right. When you get a group rate, we'll make it tight.
Yeah.
Carrie, there's 3 other great questions in here. Let me pound out 2 of these.
Well, and I want to be cognizant of the time. It is 11:45. So
Okay.
why don't we hold those questions and do our drawing really quickly in case anyone needs to leave us? And then if anyone can stay on, we could hit those questions.
Great. Thanks.
So drawing time, I have a little bowl here with everyone's name. Number 1, we have a set of Bluetooth earbuds donated by Marty Bear at PMSI, which is a great promotional items company, and they service many of our clients. The winner of our Bluetooth earbuds is Jerome Quenneville. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Jerome. Are you there? Jerome. I'm writing that down. Earbuds. And I'll get with you via email, Jerome, and get your address to have those shipped out. Now, we also have a wireless phone charger. Those are super handy. And the winner of that is Karen Williams. Karen, congratulations. And next up, we have a hotel/destination goodie basket. In our line of work, we are given a lot of logo items, and some of them are really nice, from the hotels and destinations who want to earn your business. So I always gift my clients with goodies. I'm sure Brandy remembers me coming to the office with logo items. And some of them, again, are really nice. So we've put together a basket for you and ship that off. And that will go to David Oppenheim, Hotel Baskets. Congratulations, David. And last but not least, we're throwing in a Amazon gift card, and that goes to Daryl Ching. Great. Thank you all.
Awesome. 4 winners. And for those of you that can stick around, I'll buzz through these last 3 questions real quick, and then we'll do a wrap. But I'm glad that Edwin wrote this one. Great question. He says, for years, we've asked our hotels to place rooms for our people on the same floor as our hospitality suite. We ask this so that we do not disturb other guests on that floor. Awesome. It never, ever happens. Usually our hospitality rooms will last way past midnight because this is where we solve the world's problems. Happens all the time, Eddie. All the time. That's Eddie from Illinois. Thank you for bringing that up. Carrie and I would address that way up front in the RFP process. And can I say that we can guarantee it? No. Just what if there is a client that's in there that it's in those rooms for 4 weeks and they're not going to move them in the middle of a 4-week stay? That's not common, but it could happen. But as long as we know up front, the best advice we can give is, look, you've gone to the hotel, you've taken a site inspection tour, you love this set of hospitality rooms on this one wing of the hotel. You know, you could purchase the 4 rooms that are next to it, knowing that you're going to use them anyway. Purchase them, and now they're under your inventory. So awesome question. We hear that all the time. 2 more to get through. Once my event is over, awesome question from David. How do you address all those surprises? In other words, all the increased costs, all the minimums. What if we had poor service, smaller than promised rooms? Dang, super question, David. Carrie, it sounds like David's been bit before. And here's poor David, once bitten, twice shy. Can you speak to that, Carrie? Because that's an awesome question. And David, you're not alone. I'll bet you all your club members have been through a program. You get the final bill and you're like, okay, dang it. Not only am I paying more for this and this I didn't expect, but the service was kind of subpar. And you kind of write a check begrudgingly. Carrie?
Well, there's several different ways we can help you with that. Obviously, we try to track how things are going with you all the way through up until your meeting and after, to make sure your room block is filling up nicely, to make sure you have your customer service manager and your conference services manager, they have different names for them, and that they're getting you all the information you need. You should get your banquet event orders, like a month out at least, if not sooner, and have all those costs way ahead of time. So if you don't, that's a red flag. We would definitely address that for you. If you get some unexpected charges on your bill after the event ends, we would help you address those with the hotel. Many times we have contacted them and said, hey, you guys really dropped the ball here. We'd like you to waive this charge. And if the hotel's unwilling to work with us, we also have another layer above us. Within Helms Briscoe, all of the major hotel brands have a sales team that just takes care of us and our clients, because we do book over $1 billion of business every year. So we're usually the hotel chain's largest group business client, or your meetings under our umbrella. So they give us extra special care, because they do not want us to tell other Helms Briscoe agents that this hotel did bad for our client. So, it just gives you a little extra clout that you wouldn't have on your own necessarily. But even if you didn't use us, which is perfectly understandable, you should, if you're a repeat customer, you should certainly be able to throw that card out. I mean, if you're going to the same hotel year after year, they better take really good care of you and really know your group. Anything else, Dan? Did I miss anything?
No, spot on. One last one comes in from Eddie D from Illinois. And this is smart that his club does this, Carrie. He says that they typically get together in advance of their meeting. They have what's called a mid-year conference. And some region participants will come out to view the hotel rooms, okay? So at this point, Eddie's already chosen a hotel. Here's his chosen horse. It's going to be the ABC Hotel in Philadelphia, in Chicago. He's in Illinois. And they want to do, looks to me like a show and tell, right, of the hotel. And they want to do a food tasting, right? They very importantly want to make sure that the handicap rooms are where they need to be, right? Everybody has different nuances for their programs. It sounds like they've had some surprises in the past, maybe with handicap rooms, that these handicap rooms were on a floor that made no sense, right? And this would have been nice to know, maybe, I'm guessing, before they had chosen the hotel, right? So someone like Eddie, sounds to me like from here till time eternal, when he helps write an RFP with our help, that they're going to address, hey, where are your handicap rooms? And Carrie mentioned it earlier, we can write custom questions within our RFP for whatever is unique for you. That group I had that wanted to be near a cathedral, that's not a standard question for us, but I put it in as a question that was very important to this group, and we got great answers. Same for this. If handicap rooms are very important to Eddie's group from Illinois, we get it. We will address that question way up front. We'll put a red flag by it. When hotel communities are responding to that RFP and really want to win Eddie's business, there'll be a red star by this one that says, tell us about your handicap rooms. Where are they? How many do you have? Tell me about the accessibility. Maybe another big thing for Eddie is, I've got to have this number of hospitality suites. Got to have them. Let us know. We'll write a custom question for you, Eddie. We put a huge red flag by it. If the hotel does not fill it out and hit submit, it stalls out and it won't leave the garage, because they have to answer that question. So when you finally get a grid that stacks up all of these answers right next to each other, then your answers are right in front of you. So yes, site selection and taste testings can happen in advance. Just let us know. We can help arrange those too. That's all of our questions, Carrie.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for your time today and all your great questions. And Dan and I thank you all. Thank you, Brandy and Janice, for your technical support. And I hope everyone has a great day today.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Before we close out, just on behalf of Sertoma, we'd like to thank Carrie and Dan for today's presentation. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.